Hello and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Aussie writers and other creatives.
Hello, and I'm Lynn Testoni. I'm a journalist and a content writer as well, and Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we're bringing you all kinds of tips, ideas, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business. Hi Rach, how are you? We're doing something a little different this week, aren't we?
Oh yeah, we're trying our little short episodes rather than having a guest, which is kind of a new thing for us. Just to try and give all our listeners specific advice on a common bugbear or issue that they might be having that might be something that a lot of freelancers struggle with.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying these. It's good fun, isn't it? What about you?
Yeah, I think it's a good change of pace. I think everyone likes having the guests, but we thought we'd go back to, just having a couple of little short episodes. Kind of reminds me of when we started out and we had this big idea that we were going to keep our episodes to 10 minutes, which didn't really last that long, did it?
No, I think you did say that we do tend to, talk the leg off a chair, you said?
I know. It was,
oh, well.
We were never going to keep to 10 minutes after that. So yes, but no, it's good. We've got a good topic today, don't we? What are we talking about?
Well, I think it's a great topic, and it was your idea a while ago, and I thought it was a really good one to cover. And we're talking all about taking a brief, like what to use, how to use it, how to make it work for you, because really the brief is everything. So many problems come from an incorrect brief or none at all. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. You need a brief before anything, before everything. Yeah.
Well, I have to admit that I don't always take a brief in the conventional way. I mean, I do have a template that I use sometimes, but my corporate clients tend to use their own templates, which works for them and for me. A couple of times I've tried to get clients to use my template, and it's much easier if they use their own briefing sheet, because making somebody change their systems to mine, it never works. And the same with editors. I get all sorts of different styles of brief, but essentially they've got the same information. But what about you? Do you use a template?
Yeah, look, if it's with a new client and they're coming to me for like a copywriting job or some kind of editing job, I have a briefing document, and it's going to be our latest product in the toolkit, actually. So
awesome.
Yeah, check out the toolkit for that. It's something that I've kind of created and tweaked and changed over the years, but I think it's pretty right now. And it's something that I don't really change anymore. I just use it for new clients. Yeah. So that's sort of my system with new clients. Yeah.
All right. I guess what my favorite way to take a brief is with a Zoom or a Teams call. And that's become a lot more common in the last year. I don't like going and taking a brief in person unless it's huge. Occasionally I've done it for a big opening of a restaurant or something where it's really good to see the actual space. I've done that occasionally, but it's pretty rare. But I do find a Zoom or Teams call is great. I find it's really effective, and you get a really good idea of what they want. I also often, with some of the corporate clients, I often have 2 to 3 people on the call. Sometimes I might have the marketing person who's the one who commissions me, but I might have like the product expert. It might be the business unit. It might be about a particular product or a launch or something. And that means I get all the key stakeholders in the room, or sort of in the Zoom. And I get to know what everyone wants out of a piece of content. And that's quite good. I've also started recording some of these on Otter. Like if I'm on Zoom, my own Zoom, it's really easy. But even on Teams, if you initiate a Teams meeting, you can record it. But if somebody else does it, I use Otter. And Otter, you can just press record, and it actually transcribes as you go through the thing. And it means that you don't have to take notes. Otter basically records it, and I can go back and use a reference, which is really good. And it's so much easier than taking notes. Sometimes I do take notes. I just pull up a blank Word document and type. That works as well.
Gosh, you're really thorough. Well, I've got sort of various avenues for briefing. There's a form on my website that takes potential clients straight to a briefing Google Doc.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah, I get notified if they fill it out. So I wish more people use that, but I find that most leads will come to me straight from Google, and they'll always call me. They just want to have a chat and talk about what they need, sort of thing. So I find I'm more often than not filling out the briefing form, my briefing form for them over the phone.
Yep.
And then kind of giving them that report later via email, that recap, which we'll talk about a bit later. Or I might say, I'm going to send you my briefing doc. If you can fill it out, that would be great. And I think that some clients prefer to do that because they can really think hard about what they want and all the nuances of the project. So it's like a questionnaire.
Yep.
And I think that works for some clients. So I sort of do a mixture of all of that.
Have you ever got the briefing process wrong with a client?
I think before I had those really strong systems in place, yes, because it's really easy to miss details or not realize what the client needs. And so if you're just taking notes and you don't have a questionnaire to refer back to, sometimes you can jump into things and not get a full picture, which I think leads to scope creep. And then you're trying to figure out whose fault is that. And, so I really think that you need that system in place. Also, I think you can mess up with small jobs where you don't fill in that form because it's just not necessary. But I had an editing job recently, which made me realize I need another system for those kinds of jobs. There were changes that needed to be done onto a Canva document, and the client had issues getting me onto the right file. And then I did the changes on another file that they gave me, but then found out later that the changes needed to be on their file on this different copy. So I had to transfer the changes over, which was, not too, laborious, but it was another hour that I couldn't really charge for. So, when that kind of thing happens, you think, okay, the system I need now is exactly to know what the file is, where it is, and have all that in place. You might think, oh, it's just, why would you bother? But you would bother because it's another hour of $100 that, I didn't get paid. So, so that's really important. And
so frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. What about you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I've had a recent incident, like when I've misunderstood what they want. I think I've covered the brief, but I missed the nuance. I had a client recently who wanted social media content, which I did and set up, but it turns out she was less interested in the actual words and more keen on developing a strategy, which is not really my thing. I mean, I've done it a little bit, but that's not my strength. And I ended up losing that gig. So that was a bit frustrating. And I was cross with myself that I'd somehow missed something. And I do find some clients aren't great at communicating what they want. They just know they want content or good content. So sometimes I might have the content, but not the tone. So usually with sort of like new clients or inexperienced clients, I try and get examples of what they like. That often for me seems to work at getting some real context. It might be some previous content you've done for them, and they might say, I want more blogs like this or more case studies like that, or something they already have on their website. And sometimes it's something their competitors have done or even their favorite newsletter. I had one client, which was an agency. They loved the tone of a particular US-based news email. It was unrelated to the actual subject, but they loved the way the tone was. It was quite clever, lots of puns, not in a naff way, really clever way. And it gave me some great insights. And I think it was something that would have been hard to put into a document, but I could get it. And I do find some clients aren't great at describing what they want, but they are good at finding examples of what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually have a question in my briefing doc questionnaire about the sites that the client loves and hates. And that can be the most insightful, thing that you get out of the briefing process. It definitely gives you those insights into the type of tone or style that they might be looking for. So something like that is invaluable, really.
That is invaluable. I think actually the thing about hates is really good because I have one client who just hates dashes. I know this sounds ridiculous, but she rejected quite a few of my first thing. And it turns out she just doesn't like dashes. She feels they break up copy. And I probably use a few too many dashes the way I write. And I
love a dash. I love a good dash. I probably use far too many as well.
Exactly. So that's funny, but it's really interesting. She got really fixated on that, took it off, and she's loved everything I've done. Although I've been writing for them for 2 years, and recently I accidentally put in a couple of dashes and they came back immediately. And I went, oh my God, because sometimes it's the funny things that upset clients. Really, it's something like that. So the best thing I use is a lot of reflective listening. And reflective listening is basically where you basically paraphrase something back to a client. So just to make sure that you're all on the same page and you've understood them. So something like, so this blog post is meant to persuade people to upgrade their products. And they'll go, no, 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 no. It's all about our new product range. You go, oh, okay. So these are new clients. And then she goes, yes. Then you go, oh, okay. And so it's repeating, because sometimes you make assumptions at the beginning, and that's where you get into a bit of a mess. And because it's really about nailing that call to action. Is that what you think?
Yeah. Look, I think that's key to a really good brief. And you just reminded me, we have a great blog post on Rachel's list, which talks about the funnel. So if you're doing a brief with content clients, knowing that funnel, the BOFU, the MOFU, the TOFU, is that all the different things, like top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel? I'll put it in the show notes because it's quite interesting. And if you're doing a lot of content, actually Rob Johnson wrote it for us from Engage Media. And it's a really fascinating look at where the content sits in the whole sales process.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And it could help in that briefing, so you can see where the client envisages that content, I suppose. You obviously need the call to action, otherwise you can meander all over the place.
Yes, well, we do. So what else do you need on a brief? I find the key things for me are like the target audience, the medium. Sometimes people they say content, and it could mean anything. For some people that means a print article. Some people means just website. Sometimes it's even audio. So just working out the medium, and that makes a big difference actually. And also the main message. And I generally try not to have more than 2 key messages. Otherwise it gets a bit messy. What about you?
Yep, I agree with all that. I think you also have to know their goals. Like, is this to bring in traffic? Is this, project to build trust with your audience? Is it to grow your subscriber list? What are their main goals? Sometimes they say yes to everything.
Of course.
Yeah, I think it's also good to ask about their customers' pain points, because you can get a real sense of what they're trying to do with the project and with the content. And I think you absolutely have to ask what their budget is right from the outset. Even before you go into the questionnaire phase would be my recommendation. Although I have that question on the form for people who are a bit gun shy about talking money. But I might just even say on the phone, look, giving me an idea of your budget helps us both figure out if we're a good fit to work on this together. Yeah. And if they say, I don't know how much this type of work costs, so I was hoping to get your guidance on that, which is what so many people come back and throw back at you, I might say, well, look, here's the pay rates report that we have at Rachel's list. Or I might say, here's I did a similar project and the fee on that was X, but I do quote individually on every project, as the scope can be quite different. So, if that's not in your budget, let me know, sort of thing. So those are really important parts, I think, of the briefing process.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm unsure, I guess part of that sort of budget question is I sometimes send a follow-up email to confirm all the details of the conversation, particularly if I'm taking it over the phone or on Zoom, and a quote, if necessary, spelling out the scope of the work, which just in case just to confirm that we're all on the same page. And sometimes that makes a difference too, because once they see the price, maybe they don't want to have 5 blog posts. They might say 3 or whatever. And also I often specify a word count. That's one of those sort of small details, which sounds like really pedantic because it's really about, your aims and everything. But there's a big difference in the amount of work between 800 words and 200 words or 1,500 words. And just making sure they're about the deliverables, exactly what it is. Sometimes on that follow-up email, I might get even more detail orientated, say that I'll provide it on a Word document or in a CMS or as a PDF or whatever that they want. So that's all clear as well. And it nails everything down before we start.
Yeah, we've got a lot of those deliverables built into the contracts at Rachel's list, which are also in the toolkit. So if it gets to contract stage where they, want to go ahead with your quote, or the briefing goes well and you've got the quote, and then you need a contract to sort of nail down all those deliverables, I think that's really good to send as part of your process. But I totally agree with the recap in the email after the briefing process, just to move you on to that next stage and get you to the quoting stage for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we've covered most of what you need when you're taking a brief. I hope everyone's found it useful. And you were talking about a template in your toolkit, weren't you?
Yes, it's a new product. We're going to have a questionnaire or a briefing document in there, and you can grab $5 off with the code BRIEF5 this coming week if you want to check it out. And I'll also pop a link into the show notes to the template and also to that content funnel blog post that I mentioned. And is there anything else we need to mention? Maybe the pay rates report if you needed help with rates or something like that.
Yeah, I think, and that's one of your most popular things, isn't it? The pay rates report.
I think it's the most popular.
And that's
for
free
obvious
too,
reasons.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I think we have a guest again next week, but it's so fun being on the pod with just you, Rach.
I know. Hasn't it been nice just doing a little short episode? And we might do a few more of these. So if you guys are enjoying them or have an idea for more, just let us know via the contentbite@gmail.com. And we will see you all next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.